Is it Smash? Super Smash Brothers. It doesn't say for Nintendo Switch. Oh! Oh! That's all you needed to do. After the Capcom video is done, I've been waiting for a moment like this. I don't know when the next review will be, because it's going to be top 10 Smash Bros. Characters I want. Probably top 10 first party and third party. So, I guess this is becoming a top 10 channel for the next little while. That's fine. Alright, let's rate these lists. Let's go Nintendo first. I'd say I want kind of obscure characters like maybe Sukapan, Takamaru, and how about Isaac from Golden Sun? No. Alright, so probably no obscure characters. How about some fan favorites? We'll do Ridley, King K. Rool, and how about Simon? I know that's third party, but, you know, he's pretty requested. Well, if Konami's back in, let's put in Bomberman.
Yep, it's him.
Alright, well, my choices are depleting, but my number one all time is Banjo. I don't think that's gonna happen. Jesus! Okay, well, SNK needs a rep.
Hey, cover!
Cause it's VGSquirrel.
Super Smash Brothers. This is a series that's incredibly important to me. I don't think I need to dive into this game's history much, because let's be real, if you're watching this, you probably know what Smash Bros. Is. But for the two of you out there that are unaware, Smash Bros. Is a crossover fighting game series that began in 1999 on the Nintendo 64. The series has featured primarily Nintendo characters, but as time has gone on, characters from other game companies have gotten in on the action as well. So essentially, as the creator of Smash Bros. Masahiro Sakurai says himself,
I feel like it's become more than a fighting game, some sort of celebration of gaming or something else entirely.
And this is one of the reasons that Smash Bros. Is oh so important to me. Because without it, I definitely wouldn't be as intrigued about video game history, and I probably wouldn't have this collection. Smash Bros. Has definitely contributed to this hobby of mine, and I wouldn't be here making YouTube videos without it. Now, Smash Bros. As a game is incredibly fun. I enjoy it so much. But you know what might be even more fun? Speculation. I love Smash Bros. Speculation. I've been speculating about this series for decades, especially when Brawl came around. I don't know if there's any media that excites me more than new Smash Bros. Trailers. There's something about them, just the art of it all. What characters are picked, how they're revealed, how they actually play in the game, etc. There's some real magic there, and that's all thanks to Sakurai and his team. So, how obsessive am I about Smash Bros. Speculation? Well, here's some mock character select screens I made back in the mid to late 2000s on Microsoft Paint. And here is a drawing I did back around 2007 to 2009, featuring 252 characters I wanted in at the time. I even framed it. Well, sorta. It'll make do for now. Also, if I drew this today, the character choices would be very different. So this is a topic that really speaks to me, and it's something I've wanted to discuss way before ever having this YouTube channel. But you all are on YouTube, and you probably know that everybody and their mother have made their own list. And you think you're probably gonna watch another top 10 that features Geno, Sora, Paper Mario, and Phoenix Wright. Nope! So let me just say, I have nothing against those characters, and honestly, I do hope they make it in. But you know what really excites me? Not just when characters from new series get added, but when new companies get added into Smash as well. So the rules for this list are probably unlike any other. So not only is this list only third-party characters, no offense to Nintendo, but I think most of the games I want represented are already in as assist trophies, or as characters already in the game, but this list only features characters from companies that don't have a playable character in Smash Bros. Yet. So that means no Konami, no Sega, no Capcom, no Bandai Namco, no Square-Enix, no Microsoft, no SNK, and let's even throw in no Atlus or Platinum Games. None of them. They're not allowed here. However, I may have included some subsidiary companies. Oh, and don't you dare tell me that Sora is a Disney rep. I'm watching you. Don't do it. So basically, I just want to watch this wall of text grow. Also, not only are we doing the one per franchise rule, but also the one per company rule. Also, I need to add in, we will be breaking up some merged companies. For example, if Square-Enix was eligible, we could have a Square rep as well as an Enix rep. That sort of thing. Also, please know, I'm no legal expert on who exactly owns the rights to each character. But I did my best. I should mention that for the sake of this list, we are not promoting assist trophies into characters, as that fan rule hasn't been broken for Ultimate yet. And we shouldn't be pulling any Mii costume characters either. However, none of them were characters that I would have put on this particular list anyway. Also, one last thing before we start. I've been working on this video on and off for about a year now. And with the recent release of Min Min breaking the fan spirit rule, you may see me using that argument for or against characters, and I'll try to address it when possible, but I also don't want to completely destroy the flow of the video, so please bear with me on that. And I think that's everything. So, it is my personal pleasure to announce that these are my top 10 DLC characters that I want added to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So, this is actually a top 12. Top 10 might be more searchable on YouTube. But, number 12 and number 11 are pretty ridiculous, I'm just gonna warn you. Especially number 12, because, we're getting into some conspiracy theory level stuff right here. But, number 12 is Goku. Please don't click away. So first off, yes, Sakurai has come out to say that he doesn't think it's likely for any non-video game characters to join Smash Bros. He's been on record stating that in order for a character to join, all parties must be willing to cooperate. Well, one thing I've noticed is that there are more and more coincidences with Nintendo and the companies that own the rights to Goku over the past few years, and I'm starting to get more and more suspicious of it. I might make a whole video on why this might end up happening down the line. Maybe not in this Smash Bros, but who knows. Regardless, as a fighter, Goku obviously has a lot to work with. If he did join, I imagine he would be in his base form, and would have some sort of Super Saiyan mechanic. Goku can be toned down in order to not be completely overpowered, and I think he would be a hell of a lot of fun to play as. With instant transmission, Ki Blast, his obvious use of martial arts, and of course his Kamehameha, he has an arsenal that would be something to behold. And for his final smash, I think he needs to send everyone off the same way he sent off Kid Buu. With Sakurai constantly raising the bar on who could make it into this game, I feel like the last big game changer has to be adding a highly fan-requested non-video game character like Goku. I cannot think of anything that would blow up the internet in a quicker fashion. Of course, if Goku was added, he would absolutely have to be the final character. You've got to close that door before more anime characters are at the doorstep. Then with that, Sakurai finally retires from Smash Bros. I think I should be clear in stating that these are characters that I would like to see added to Smash Bros. They're not necessarily predictions, because I don't see this one happening at all. But with Ryu, Ken, and now Terry all joining the roster, I think it's time to add a character from that popular fighting franchise that's not from Japan. Now, why do I think this is not going to happen? Well, you see, MK is kinda, you know, banned in Japan for being too violent. Yeah, so I can't say this would be an easy get. But when I think of franchises that certainly have impacted the industry, well, Mortal Kombat is definitely up there, especially in the States. Now, if any Mortal Kombat rep was added, I think it has to be Scorpion.
Scorpion wins.
Sure, I see arguments for Sub-Zero and Raiden and even Liu Kang, but Scorpion is the freaking mascot of NetherRealm Studios. I think that pretty much settles it. When it comes to his moveset, Scorpion of course has a lot to pull from, with his teleportations, abilities to breathe fire, giant skeleton hand things, and of course, his spear. But honestly, the real reason I want Scorpion in is to finally see that Street Fighter versus Mortal Kombat crossover that's been on the minds of many fighting game fans since the 1990s. If you follow me on Twitter, @DarrenPettit, you may know that I haven't really been a big supporter of indie characters coming into Smash Bros. I'm sure you're wondering why I'm the heartless human being that I am, but let me explain myself. It really comes down to the fact that Sakurai is trying to cover Nintendo and video game history when adding characters to the roster. For the most part. However, when it comes to indie games, I think most of them are just too young to really be considered impactful yet. I think we need to give a bit more time before we really start digging into the indie scene for characters. That's just me though. I don't speak for everyone. But if one indie game were to get a character added, I think it has to be from one that's actually already got some representation in Smash Bros. That's right, I'm picking Frisk from Undertale. While Shovel Knight and Shantae were definitely the most requested indie characters during the time of the Fighters Ballot, Shovel Knight unfortunately hadn't made it to Japan yet, and Shantae wasn't really introduced there until fairly recently. From what I understand, their popularity over there isn't super apparent. Undertale, however, is apparently huge in Japan, and has been a runaway success from the start. Also, when looking at Smash Bros, I think we all know that Shovel Knight is an assist trophy, and Shantae is a spirit. I think assist trophies for the most part are pretty much stuck. There was potential for Springman to be the arms rep, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Also, Shantae might have a chance, but I don't think having a spirit really helps any character's case either. What makes me think Undertale, though, is that Sakurai is usually pretty big on adding main characters into Smash Bros. And I know for some reason some will argue that Sans is the main character in Undertale, which I've never really understood that logic, but regardless. I don't think it can be argued that Frisk is the main playable character in Undertale. Personally, I think the absence of Frisk as a Mii costume or Undertale spirits is weird, thus helping out my main character theory. I also don't think it should be underestimated that Toby Fox has actually been to Sakurai's house. I have a feeling that's not the usual case, and honestly, they might be good friends. And as you may know, Kojima being friends with Sakurai is what got Snake into Brawl initially.
Showtime.
Anyway, despite all this, let's just say Frisk gets in. What would his moveset be? Well, it would certainly be bizarre, but with how diverse the first Fighters Pass characters were, I think my proposal could be possible. The whole concept of Undertale is that you can either kill enemies or spare them. Well, how about for Frisk, you have a mechanic where if you don't attack anyone for a while, your attacks become more powerful. A little bit redundant, I know, but just bear with me. Some of his mechanics could be more genocide-based, like standard attacks and using different weapons, but others could be more pacifist-based. I almost picture a move like Spare working like Lucas's up smash, where anyone in range just gets absolutely destroyed. But it could also work like the Wario Waft, where the less you use the Spare attack or regular attacks, the more powerful the Spare attack becomes. Then you fill up the rest of Frisk's moveset with all of the other wacky antics that Frisk gets himself into throughout Undertale. And if you add all that up, I think you have a pretty damn unique fighter, and also an excellent indie rep. Okay, so I want it to be known that I started working on this list about a year ago, and nothing that happened in that time frame really affected the list unless they were added to Smash Bros. So I don't want to say that I've endorsed anything that this company has done. This is just coming from a place of companies that have worked with Nintendo and their potential to get into Smash Bros. But number 9 is Tracer from Overwatch. Now, Tracer is a weird case, because if you think of Blizzard, you normally think of World of Warcraft, StarCraft, or maybe even Diablo. But a few years ago, a game by the name of Overwatch came and completely took over the gaming landscape for about a year or so. Now, I know I just mentioned on the last entry that some of these franchises may be too young, and that's true. But when it comes to Overwatch, you're representing a company that's actually supported Nintendo for a long time. Anyone remember StarCraft 64? So, why Overwatch of all Blizzard properties? Well, the way I see it, Overwatch is the franchise with the biggest focus on characters, while other Blizzard games tend to focus on species or things of that nature. At least from an outsider looking in. Which leads to another factor. I haven't really played any of Blizzard's other games. Regardless of all this, I think Tracer would be a lot of fun. Obviously, she would be a speedy character that fires with her pulse pistols in order to rack up damage on foes. She would of course have access to her pulse bombs and even have the ability to blink, meaning teleport quickly, or recall, meaning move back in time. This would be a concept that would be entirely new to Smash Bros, and thus, add a character that wouldn't be like any other. I feel like I might get a bit torched for most of my list, as you'll see in the future, because I don't really include many modern characters. Personally, I'm one that likes to celebrate those who have been around the block for a long time, as opposed to fresh new faces. Though there is one modern character that I feel very confident in saying that he will be DLC some point soon. Travis Touchdown from the No More Heroes series is practically a Nintendo character at this point. While yes, he has appeared on other consoles, it was the Nintendo Wii that was his birthplace. As for why he should be added in, well, I think I consider him to be Ultimate's version of Bayonetta. Not in gameplay style, don't worry guys. But just the fact that he's a mature character that has close ties to Nintendo. So basically the same situation as Bayonetta. Now, as for his moveset, he would obviously use his beam katana and some of the abilities associated with that. They could implement the charge mechanic, but might want to change how that's done. In fact, a lot of Travis's mannerisms may need to be retooled in order to better fit with Smash.
Fuckhead!
The wrestling moves can certainly stay, though. While I've seen this mentioned elsewhere, I think it's a must that Travis is aware that he's in a video game and around these superstars. A wide variety of winning statements on the victory screen would definitely be appreciated. With No More Heroes 3 just around the corner, I feel very comfortable in placing Travis at the number 8 spot.
Okay, how about this? If I become number 1, will you do it with me?
No. When you think of Nintendo's history, you'll find many companies that have had a good relationship with Nintendo. However, if we speak about recent history, I don't know if there's many that are closer than Ubisoft. The two have been so buddy-buddy lately that it almost seems rude of Nintendo to not have a Ubisoft rep in their crossover game. Especially after the fact that Ubisoft has been given the keys a few times to play with some of Nintendo's IPs. Now, although he is a spirit, I think Rayman is the strongest contender for a Ubisoft rep. Especially with Altair and the Rabbids both being Mii costumes. I think Rayman would naturally fit in. With his limbless features, Rayman would have a lot of ranged attacks, be a grappling nightmare, and be a tricky target. His attacks would of course consist of punching, swinging, hovering, and shooting. All of the attacks you would expect of Rayman. However, they could also pull from a bit of the wackier parts of his adventures, and bring in a platforming character that is stretched across multiple console generations. The trickiest part, however, would be creating Rayman's amiibo. While I think they could make it work, no matter what way you do it, it's gonna look a little goofy. But I hope they're willing to take this loss in order to get the Limbless Wander into Smash. Here's a character that originally I could never get behind. I never understood why people wanted him in the past. But with Bethesda being so faithful to the Switch, I think it might be time for Doom Guy, or Doom Slayer, to make his way in. Similar to Scorpion, Doom Guy is a tricky character to make a moveset for. Not exactly for a lack of options, but because his options might not be the best choice for Smash. Much like Snake, I think Doom Guy would have to focus a bit more on his explosives. For whatever reason, I don't think a shotgun can be brought into Smash Bros. However, a rocket launcher is A-okay. Also, Doom's main man could of course use his chainsaw, that blade on his arm, and even his new sword.
Oh god, another anime sword user?
What? Not to mention that there are plenty of sci-fi related weapons in Doom, so that could be part of his arsenal as well. And I think it goes without question that his final Smash has to be the BFG. Finally, I should probably mention that the FPS genre has pretty much no representation in Smash Bros. So Doomslayer would fill that role nicely. I mean, he is a video game icon after all. So Doomslayer may not be the most family-friendly choice, but regardless, he rips and tears his way to the number 6 spot. I think it's fair to say that at this point of the list, we're gonna be dropping off of characters with more modern sensibilities, and more heading the legacy character direction. So essentially, we're going full Darren.
What does that even mean?
Well, let me list off number 5 and I'll show you. I think when looking at legacy characters, we shouldn't look much further than Nintendo's Classics line of systems, as well as their Nintendo Online services. And right within the NES Classic, we'll find number 5 on my list, Bublun from Bubble Bobble. Within Bubble Bobble, you can find Bublun's number 1 attack, shooting bubbles. Obviously, this would have to be Bublun's standard B attack, except in Smash Bros, it might not trap an enemy right away. I feel as though you would have to make it a charge mechanic to make this work properly. And unlike Bubble Bobble, where the enemy is trapped permanently, enemies would only be trapped for a brief moment. Now, you're probably thinking, alright Darren, where's the rest of his arsenal? Well, Bub is not only the star of the Bubble Bobble series, but also Bust a Move, or Puzzle Bobble, whichever you prefer. With that added factor, Bubblen is not only an older character that is getting some love, but also a puzzle rep. Yeah, you know how people have been wanting Tetris blocks to be characters? Or Arl from Puyo Puyo? Yeah, those are fine choices as puzzle reps, but I think Bubblen could easily represent the puzzle genre, and probably have a more fleshed out moveset than the previously mentioned characters. So, bust a move. How do you pull from this game series? Well, what I think is that his recovery should be Bubblen getting into the cannon and launching himself upwards. Maybe even have a second to point which direction he wants to go. Also, I think the cannon could be implemented into some of his smash attacks as well. On top of that, he could also pull from Rainbow Islands and Parasol Stars, where he's in his human form and can shoot rainbows or use his umbrellas. Now, that still might not be quite enough to flesh out Bub's moveset to its fullest, and I see why you would think that. However, I think that with Bubblen being a retro character, he can kind of work like Pac-Man, where Pac-Man pulls moves from other classic Namco arcade games. So Bubblen could kind of work like that, except from the company he comes from, Taito. Now, if you're unaware, Taito has been around for a long time. They're actually the company behind Space Invaders, Rastan, and other classics. So I feel Sakurai could just use Bubblen as his own personal Taito playground. Now, the biggest hurdle for Bubblen is that Taito is owned by Square, so they might be a bit stingy with the character, given how they've acted in the past. But I've got a good feeling that Square isn't as protective with their Taito games as they are with their big moneymakers. Finally, Bubble Bobble has actually had a recent game on the Switch known as Bubble Bobble for Friends. So with all this, I think Bubblen is an excellent choice and is an overlooked option for Smash Bros. So, there is one long-lasting character from the SNES era that I think we're ignoring. While his game didn't appear on the SNES Classic, his series has had a long-lasting connection with Nintendo. And I think it's a character that nobody is expecting. Yes, I'm talking about Pete from Harvest Moon. When you really think about it, Harvest Moon has been making its way on Nintendo consoles for quite some time. Whether it's under the Harvest Moon name is an entirely different story, but we'll get to that in a moment. Pete honestly has the ability to have a pretty kick-ass moveset. I think it's obvious that, yes, he'd use his farming equipment in order to take out other combatants. But I think he can do so in a way that's different from any other character. So, this is future Darren interrupting old Darren to tell you that Pete is no longer as unique as I wanted him to be, because Midman has this mechanic that I wanted Pete to have. But still, I think even with that, he would still be a lot of fun. So, back to old Darren, and yeah, can't predict the future when I was recording all that. Thanks! By that I mean, I think his down B should be his rucksack, and that allows him to cycle through different tools. With these tools, I think this then allows Pete's smash attacks to work differently depending on which tool he's holding. Think about it. He has a sickle, a hammer, a hoe, an axe, maybe even a watering can. Pete's got options. He could also implement his animals into his moveset, whether it be throwing a ball to have his dog run at a player, or maybe even jumping on his horse for a Stampede Final Smash with all of his other livestock. I think Pete has a ton of potential. Now, there is one thing about Pete that makes him a little trickier to get into Smash Bros. And this list. And that has to do with the companies that own the Harvest Moon name. So let me try to explain this the best I can. What we know as Harvest Moon in the West is known in Japan as Bokujo Monogatari, or Ranch Story. This game was developed by Marvelous. However, you might think it's owned by Natsume. Well, Ranch Story was owned by Natsume in the West under the Harvest Moon name. But around 2014, Natsume lost the rights to the Ranch Story series of games, but was able to keep the name Harvest Moon. So while there's still games coming out under the Harvest Moon name, they are not actually the continuation of the Ranch Story games. Instead, in the West, the Ranch Story games are known as Story of Seasons. So in Smash Bros., Pete's series would actually have to be Story of Seasons, and not Harvest Moon. Now, why is this whole thing a problem for the list? Well, you know how I was trying to do one character for each company? Well, Marvelous also helped make the No More Heroes series. However, I've noticed they are usually only the publisher, and not all the time for some reason. So I'm not quite sure who owns the rights to the No More Heroes series, but for the sake of this list, I'm saying Travis Touchdown is representing Grasshopper Manufacture, and Pete is representing Marvelous. Got it? I hope so. Man, all of this to explain why I want a farmer character in Smash Bros. Worth it. When we take a look at Smash Bros., we see a mix of many game genres. We've got platformer characters, RPG characters, fighting game characters, etc. But you know what's a genre that isn't really represented? The classic beat-em-up genre. Now, while there's many choices for characters that could represent the genre, like Mike Hagar, Axel from Streets of Rage, or even the Battletoads, I think, once again, we just have to hook up the NES Classic to find our answer. Yes, Billy and Jimmy from Double Dragon. Now, I think the first question is, really, how would these characters be presented? As twin characters like the Ice Climbers? As alternate costumes like Hero? Or as Echo Fighters like Simon and Richter? To be honest, I don't really have an answer. But I think you can't have one without the other. They are the Double Dragons, after all. And, to be honest, I'm not really sure how they would work. But, that doesn't mean they shouldn't be in. I do think at least one of their mechanics should be being able to spawn different melee weapons from their games. Whether it be a chain, a pipe, a knife, or even a barrel. I kind of picture it working like Pac-Man's Neutral B. Other than that, a lot of their moves would of course consist of melee attacks. Now, I'm sure you could say they would only have punches and kicks, but considering these characters are the head of different dojos and River City Girls, I think they have a lot of moves they can pull from. Speaking of, the fact that characters from River City Ransom have shown up as spirits in Smash has given me even more reason to believe that these guys have a shot, due to the fact that both of these series could almost be considered siblings. I personally see these characters as Fighter Pass 2's version of Terry, where honestly, they're kind of obvious, but everyone is overlooking them for some reason. Now, let's put the NES Classic away. I'm not gonna lie, these previous 10 characters, I can live without, but these last two are must-haves in my eyes. Smash Ultimate already has an A++ roster, but if these last two get in, well, Sakurai and his team are getting some extra credit, because honestly, this would be too good to be true. So I went a little out of my way for these last two, and well, here's character number 2. Oh, god damn it. Yes, with all these other classic NES characters joining the fray, I'm honestly a little shocked that Ryu Hayabusa hasn't made his way in yet. However, I do think it's very, very likely. As I'm sure you're aware, Koei Tecmo is very close with Nintendo, and has been for a good while now. They're responsible for the Hyrule Warriors and Fire Emblem Warriors games, they helped make Fire Emblem Three Houses, and they made Metroid Other M. However you feel about that one. And yes, their games have appeared on the NES Classic and Switch Online service. And with Ryu being Tecmo's most well-known character, I think he has the best shot to make it in. Now, here's the thing. Ryu is, yes, another sword fighter, but he's so much more than that. Not only does he have the use of his sword, but also all of his special abilities from the original Ninja Gaiden trilogy, and also a ton of weapons from the newer Ninja Gaiden games, like his claws or his bow and arrow. On top of that, he has appeared in Tecmo's premier fighting series, Dead or Alive, where he has some strange attacks for sure. Now, I think it's most likely that we will get Ryu's modern design as his base design, since it's been pretty prominent since his Xbox game. However, I don't think Sakurai would pass up the opportunity to give Ryu his classic outfit as well. But if there's anything I need with Ryu Hayabusa being added to Smash, it's the amazing Ryu to be one of the tracks in the game, as well as his big old ninja star working exactly like it does in the NES game. It just needs to happen. Anyway, Ryu, I hope we see you soon, buddy. It's time for you to join the rest of your classic NES pals. Like I said before, Smash Ultimate has basically the perfect roster, with dozens of characters, an insane amount of stages, and a ton of content that I don't have time to mention. Smash Ultimate is truly ultimate in regards to video game representation. But I do have to ask, when you look at this banner, who, if anyone, is missing? Well, see for yourself.
Let's go!
Look, I don't really think I need to explain this one. Crash is an absolute icon of gaming. Back when Nintendo and Sega were butting heads, Sony decided to step in and get in on the console wars too. And, unlike other companies, they did pretty well for themselves. And I think a lot of that has to do with their mascot at the time, Crash Bandicoot. While Crash certainly hasn't been a Sony exclusive for quite some time, he is important to gaming and how gaming has changed over the years. There was a time where you wouldn't see characters like Sonic on a Nintendo console, but the gaming landscape has certainly changed. However, we have to take the time to acknowledge the history of video games, and I think Crash does an excellent job in celebrating that. Not to mention the fact that Crash is more relevant now than he has been in years, with the release of the Insane trilogy and Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled. Also, both of those games made their way to the Switch. And with Crash 4 on the horizon, this would be excellent cross-promotion. Now I know I'll hear some say, what about Spyro? To which I say, do you see Crash in Spyro's kart racing game? No, I don't think so. Also, Spyro in Japan was a very different game and isn't as well known as Crash over there. When it comes to moveset, I think Sakurai would stick with the basics. With Banjo's moveset pulling from Banjo-Kazooie and Tooie for the most part, I picture Crash's moveset sticking with the original trilogy moves. There's no lack of options though. To start with, he has his trademark spin, bazooka, body slam, slide, and Aku Aku. Then you've got his vehicles, maybe bring in a crate mechanic or a TNT mechanic, his animals, and if necessary, even pull from his racing games. There's a lot to work with here. The only issue I potentially see with Crash is that his artwork is notoriously different in Japan compared to the US. So maybe he'd have to be like Rob and include both versions of him in the game. Oh, and I totally forgot to mention that the Crash dance has to be in the game. I want the whole thing as a taunt. I don't care how long it is. Anyway, when it comes down to it, I don't think I have to convince you all that Crash would be a fantastic pick. To me, he's the last big icon that really, truly deserves a spot. I think if he gets in, then Smash Ultimate's roster is honestly perfect.
Congratulations!
So those were my top 10, really top 12, DLC characters that I want added to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Man, Smash Bros. Is such a special series, especially Smash Ultimate. It is the ultimate love letter to not only Nintendo, but video games in general. It's a celebration of gaming history, and that's why people are so passionate about the characters they want in. It's why I get so obsessed with it. I truly believe that Smash Ultimate is a once-in-a-lifetime game that is honestly too difficult to replicate. I think this is the peak. And I just want to thank Sakurai and anyone who's ever been associated with this series dearly. So enjoy it now, everyone, because I think this is the best that Smash Bros. Is ever going to be. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys. This is unquestionably the longest amount of time I've ever spent on a video. Just dozens and dozens and dozens of hours of work. I think it has to be over 100. I captured, I think, over 100 games. I know over 100 games. I'm not sure if 100 made it into this video. You'll see. I think it'll be on this side. The credits of all the games I captured, all the music, all the trailers I searched for. That's something that people just don't understand how long that takes. But this was a video I had to do justice because Smash Bros. It's so close to me. It's so important to me. Like I said before, I wouldn't be doing this without Smash Bros. So thank you from the bottom of my heart if you watch this. It just means the world to me. I've just put countless hours into this thing. Also, as you can see, this is not where I was in my last major video. If you've been watching me regularly, this has been normal, but this is not where I used to live. So I've been dealing with that this past year. I'm actually filming this, well, now it's past midnight, but I was filming this on the anniversary of my channel, July 17th, 4 years of VGSquirrel. Just thank you so much for all the support. I'm hoping this next year will be better. This past year hasn't been, filled with the content that I want to put out, but, there's a lot going on in my life. As you can tell, there's a transition in my life, and there's stuff that just needs to be taken care of. I know if you watch the top 10 Capcom characters video that I was talking about starting a Patreon, and I still really want to do that, but at that time, there was so much unknown, so much other things happening, so much of this going on, that I didn't want to start the Patreon until I was comfortable in putting out content for patrons and for YouTube more regularly. So, because I don't want people to be supporting my Patreon if I don't feel confident in my ability to put out content. I'm starting to feel more confident in that right now. A lot of big parts of my life have now gone by that needed to be taken care of, just straight up life stuff. So I'm hoping to start that soon. Probably not after this video. I'm probably going to take a little bit of a break of this video. I will be doing the VGSquirrel 4-year anniversary video. Then after that, this is the only video I've seen. This has been my tunnel vision for a long time. And also, I know a lot is going on in the world right now, and I just hope you all are safe. I hope you all are okay. I just hope you're all doing well. That's essentially it. Obviously, the world is crazy right now, but I'm hoping this video took out however long, 40 minutes probably, 50, an hour, who knows. But I'm hoping this entertained you during that time, and I just hope you're doing well. And now I do need to do the channel plugging thing, so please, if you like this video, if this is your first time watching me, please subscribe, please like the video, please comment who you want in Smash Bros. It's such a fascinating topic, and everyone's list is different. Well, for the most part. There's, like I said at the beginning, there's kind of some fan favorite characters. But please support me if you can. I genuinely appreciate it, because this was a big one, and sharing this video would mean the absolute world to me. But yeah, come be a member of the community. Come be a member of the Hibernation. I know I don't really say that a lot, but the Hibernation is what I consider fans of the channel, essentially. So yeah, please join the community. Please help out if you can. Would just genuinely appreciate it. Anyway, I think that's it. So thank you so much, guys, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Have a good one.